Hi everyone. Today I want to talk to you about the conflict of interest when assisting clients in light of the pending trial with the State of Idaho versus Bryan C Kohberger, as it has come to our attention that the appointed attorney that they've appointed for him has been representing one of the victim's mothers. And so there's a lot of chatter, is this, appropriate? If you're new to my channel, my name is Karen Cole from Legal Minded Friends. I am a lawyer in England and Wales, and I assist litigants in person. So if you're interested, we're going to talk about kind of the process that I go through when I get a new client, or if I get a case and I have to make sure that there's no conflict of interest. To set us up with what's going on, let's play a clip.
Jennifer Coffindaffer, you flagged this. So my understanding is that the woman, the female attorney representing the accused in the Idaho murder case, also represented the mother of one of the victims?
That's exactly right. The mother of Xana Kenodle on drug charges, clear back in November, and actually on 4 total cases over quite a span of time. So here is somebody that is representing the mother of one of the deceased victims, and yet also represented from about up until the 5th of January, when she finally put in notice of this conflict and conflicted herself out, withdrawing from the case, and the case was then assigned to another attorney. This is something, Chris, in 28 years of federal law enforcement, I've never seen. When a public defender has a conflict, they do not accept the next case that is the conflicted case.
Oh my goodness, what did you think about that? Isn't Jennifer Coffindaffer excellent? You can see her on DutyRon, as she does a lot of appearances on there. News Nation goes on to have a attorney give his opinion on what he would do. So let's get into how I go about making sure there is no conflict of interest. So I think the first thing we should discuss is the differences in the UK between a lawyer, a solicitor, and a barrister. So a lawyer, somebody like myself, who does research, I research the law, provide legal services, I assist litigants in person, so those are people that want to represent themselves. Then solicitors are lawyers, and they are regulated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority. And barristers, they're regulated by the Bar Association, Bar Standards, and they specialize in advocacy. So they're like the ones that stand up in criminal court with the wig on. And when somebody is going to represent you, so that means you've hired a solicitor to represent you. So that means they're going to take what you're asking them to do and do the best gosh darn job they can. And with barristers, they're going to be able to argue your case. They're going to put your pleadings together, and they make expert opinions. When you come to a lawyer, what they do, like myself, is I would give you basically what the law says, and then you get to make your own decision. So I don't sugarcoat it. I tell it straight up, and then you get to make your own decision. So when I do my due diligence to make sure that there's no conflict of interest, one of the things you first look at is to see if let's say I would benefit in any way from this person's case. So you want to make sure that whatever case you're working on, there's not going to be a financial benefit. So I would ensure to do that. Once you've worked out that there's going to be no beneficial interest, the next thing you want to do is make sure that you can accommodate that person so that you're not so busy that you're going to ignore them. And if you've been watching the Sarah Boone case, she's the Suitcase murderer. I did a video that you can check out. So what happened there is she hasn't actually heard from her solicitor for a long time, and I guess he's really busy. You want to make sure that you have the capacity to take on the case, because you don't want your client to feel like they're not being supported. So the other type of conflict is a perceived conflict of interest. So, and this is what we're seeing in the Bryan Kohberger, the accused Bryan Kohberger. I mean, we just listened to a tape where the attorney that they assigned for him, she's a specialist, but she's been also representing someone else for a long time. And when you are representing a client or you're assisting them, you get to know them, and I would think, how could she cross-examine this person or call her as a witness? It just seems ludicrous. So I don't know, maybe they can get someone else to do that part of it, or they might not even question her, who knows. So if you watch that clip in full, you'll see some of the reasons why that attorney for the accused Bryan C Kohberger could stay on. Personally, I don't think it looks right. This is such a heinous crime, and to think she supported one of the victim's mothers, it's kind of, you know, doesn't seem right. But lawyers, solicitors, barristers are there to present the facts of the case and to give the best arguments for your client. So hopefully a fair trial will just happen and everything will work out, but we have a long ways to wait. In the UK, if it's a family matter, the court does allow some overlap. That's a discretion of the court in the family court. So an example would be if you represented the wife and a few years later, you know, against the husband, and a few years later the husband comes up to you and says, hey, can you help me out? And then in court the wife says, no, don't let her do that. She was assisting me a couple of years ago. But the court does allow that kind of overlap in family law. The other perceived conflict could be representing both sides. And there is a discretion for that if you feel that you know, both parties want that and they're in agreement and they're within the law. Like, so let's say it's an agreement that they want to draft, that they want drafted. So that's perfectly fine to do that, provided that whatever is in the agreement isn't something that wouldn't stand up in law. And you wouldn't do it is if you think there's going to be some conflict. So let's say you read the agreement that they've drafted and they say, you say to them, oh, this isn't a good agreement, you know, and they say, no, that's what I want. That's what I want. Well, tell them to go get separate advice. So the reason that you want to send them off to get separate advice is because later on they could say, oh, I was under duress. You know, I wish you would have stopped me. So you just want to protect yourself. The other consideration I would give is to have systems set up not to cross-contaminate. For example, setting up password protected for confidential information. So you'd set up passwords so that you'd need them to open it, because you don't want to share something by mistake. And if you watch the Alex Jones hearing, his solicitors mistakenly gave his entire phone data to the other side when they only should have given a segment. Can you imagine? 2 times I've had clients with the same or similar name. So whenever the client called, it must have sounded like I was a bank security because I'd have to ask them all these questions to make sure it was them. The list I've given is not exhaustive, so I've left a link in the description area to the SRA's regulations on conflicts of interest if you want to read their guidance. So now that you have all these kind of like little this information on how to make sure there's not going to be any conflicts of interest, now you know what kind of questions you should be asking somebody that you might hire. Well, I hope you found today's video interesting, and information is power. Why not subscribe and watch more of our videos? If you need legal help, contact Legal Minded Friends.